Hello everyone. It's James again. And before I start today's important video, I just want to say, all work in this video contains 100% original content of and by myself James Smith, otherwise known as Begood 4000, and was uniquely created with NAWMAL software, by myself James Smith. As I purchased commercial rights from NAWMAL to produce my unique and original video with this software. Commentary is uniquely my own thoughts, feelings, and expressions. Now that I have that out of the way, I do hope your day is going way better than fantastic and your journey to self-betterment is going way better than fantastic as well. And for those that are new to this channel and my work, sorry about the cartoon robot voice. It's all I have and I thank you for your understanding. And for those of you that have been a part of this channel, thank you for liking my cartoon robot voice. I really do appreciate you. With that said, this is a very important and sad video topic. And this is the case of Lacey Fletcher. I'm not sure how I missed this case when it was first reported. But when I came across this, it really shook me to my core. And for those of you that know this case, I'm sure you can understand why. From just the horrific and terrible conditions this woman sadly lived in. That ultimately was the reason for her life coming to an end. But the real terrible aspect of this case is how and why Lacey lived in such a terrible existence, stuck on a sofa for approximately 12 years before her life came to an end. And though this is just my humble cartoon opinion, so you can take it how you would like to take it, when I had a chance to learn about Lacey's case, this struck me as being what narcissistic abuse can and sometimes will look like on the extreme end of things. And I will go over why I think and believe this way, and why this is just my opinion on the matter. From all accounts, Lacey appeared to live in a normal-looking, quiet and average middle-class home and family. And some say that Lacey appeared to be a normal and even happy child up until the 9th grade, where she was then placed into homeschooling. As it was said, she was starting to experience some mental health issues. And she was then diagnosed with social anxiety disorder and autistic spectrum disorder. And somewhere along the line Lacey refused to leave the sofa. Her parents considered to put her in a mental health facility but decided against it. Because from what the Fletchers stated was that Lacey wasn't happy about this. So they just went about their lives. So much so, the neighbors just assumed that Lacey no longer lived in the house because they never saw her. And before Lacey made the sofa her home, it was said they had visitors and family friends. But once things took an ugly turn in the Fletcher family home, they no longer took visitors. However, they were still active in the community, going to church and all kinds of other activities. And from the outside of the home, you wouldn't ever dream that a now young woman was rotting on a sofa with maggots and flies and sores all over her body. And there are pictures, just horrible pictures of the sofa Lacey found the end to her life on. And it's covered in bodily waste. However, I don't want to show it here, for the sake of those that might have a weak stomach. If you want to find it, it's there for you to see if you so choose to do so. The sofa and the floor under it was starting to buckle from all of the bodily fluids and waste that had gathered over the years. And it was said that the corner that who sees death in all kinds of manner every day of his life, said this scene he responded to and the sights and smells he witnessed, he will never be able to get out of his mind. It's reported he had to go outside and throw up as he was made sick by the scene he was investigating. It was said that Clay and Sheila Fletcher were arrested for these alleged crimes. However, due to technical issues the charges were dropped, but were re-arrested and charged again about a month ago from this video. But why would this or could this be classic yet extreme narcissistic abuse? Well, this is something I've talked about many times before, but I will dive and explain it again. Especially to those that are new to this channel and to information about narcissistic abuse. Not only information regarding narcissistic abuse, but information as told by those that grew up in such homes. And even many clinically trained experts might tell you. They have information regarding what they have learned and gained through their training. And from their practice in seeing clients or patients. But you see a completely different side when you are raised in such a home. Or you possibly were married or were dating a narcissist. I had one therapist tell me when I was looking for help while I was stuck with my now ex. And he told me, James, all of the things you are saying about your ex and your mother sound completely unbelievable. But I believe you. And here's why. He explained because he over the last few years had to deal with a narcissist up close and personal in his life. And he said in his practice, especially when seeing couples. Before his personal experience dealing with what he believed to be a narcissist. He said he might have gotten things wrong in his practice. Where he might have deemed the victim to be the one in the wrong. And the narcissist to be the victim. So growing up in such a home gives those of us that went through such an ordeal a unique perspective that others might not be able to understand or catch the finer points of the hows and the whys. I say all of that to say the part that most people miss, what I call quiet sadism. Here's an example. There are some popular people on this platform right now that have confirmed their narcissist parent or parents overfed them as a child, so they would become helpless and dependent on the narcissist parent or parents. And so they would never leave home. And when I hear that Lacey didn't want to go to a mental health facility or she didn't want help for her problems, it seems the Fletchers gave a universal answer for most narcissists' parents. And that is, well, I just did what they wanted me to do. Meaning what their child wanted them to do. Well, that's what you wanted, isn't it? I just did what you wanted. And this would be the same answer regarding overfeeding their child. And their child now an adult. And people questioning the parent about their poor choices in how they raised their child. And they would answer, I just did what he or she wanted me to do. It's like they are shifting the blame for a problem they created. And this goes back to Lacey's original diagnosis regarding social anxiety and autism spectrum, which then led to Lacey feeling most at home on the sofa and not wanting to leave. My question is, what was Lacey's in-home life like before all of this happened? I remember growing up. There was a tough spot in my life. When I was really young. Where because of anxiety and a stressful situation, let's just say, I got very sick, and I was kept out of school for about 2 months. Now looking back, that 2 months literally could have been turned into a lifetime. Because my narcissist mother was already using much of the same language that the Fletchers' parents have used as to their reasons why. You see, what's happening outside of a home and inside of a home can be very different things. And what's going on inside of a home can greatly affect a child's moods, behaviors, and ability to feel safe. I've mentioned before how my narcissist mother would tell my brother and I horrible stories about how she was horribly attacked, let's just say when she was a child. And she put in every single, and I do mean every single detail of this so-called attack. Which from what I've been led to believe likely never happened. But I was being told this at the age of 6 or so. Then right after telling me all of this, she sent me to walk great distances to school in a notoriously bad neighborhood and area of town. She would send me to run errands on the public bus in even worse areas of town and the city at the age of 6, 7 and 8 years old. And there were times I wasn't afraid at all. However, there were a great many times I was so afraid the anxiety and stress seemed so unbearable I couldn't move. But with all that being said, my mother was looking for one of us to end up somehow disabled. And oftentimes they will mess up every avenue of your life. When you are young and confused, that you become so afraid to do anything. So much so you don't know what to do. Now in my instance, it was a blessing in disguise I was finally kicked out of my family home of origin. Because any monies related to my father were gone. And any assistance programs my mom was getting because of me were now coming to an end. And she flat out told me, If I'm on disability or something like that, I can stay. But if not, I have to go. Well, my narcissistic golden child sibling, who used to be handsome and well built, ended up on disability with my narcissist mother. And he went from handsome and well built to barely 100 pounds, going from one doctor appointment to another, unable to find out what was wrong with him. Doctor appointments and problems my mother thrived on. Because you see, that's the life that was created for her as a child too. And she was the sick one. And her mother was shuffling her from one doctor appointment to the next. And at least in my family of origin story, I believe it was Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which is super common for narcissistic parents. Now, is this the case with Lacey? Well, I don't know. But what I do know is that she was left to rot on the family sofa with no help. No intervention allegedly. But her situation seemed to be blamed on Lacey, as that's how she so-called wanted to live her life according to the Fletchers allegedly. Now, going back to my situation, and I don't want to go into this part in great detail as it was horrible for me. But I was almost bedridden for about 2 months. And I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to go to school. I was scared. I was frightened. And that anxiety made me really physically sick. But I didn't want to do anything. All I can say, it was God setting the timing right that it was at the end of the school year. So I had a summer to work through my issues. Had it been at the beginning of the school year, my life could have turned out very differently. Very differently. The truth is that narcissists love this pattern of getting their children in a dependent state in one form or another. They don't want them to leave home. But they also enjoy to watch their children suffer. There is often an amount of envy for their child as well. It could be their looks, their smile, how others are drawn to them, and other talents and things about them that make them who they are. The narcissist parent or parents will get highly envious and work hard and will manipulate their child or children into a helpless state, where the child will have no idea how they got into the state of being. And it will just spiral downhill. Now, is it possible that, no matter how Lacey grew up, she would have been given the same diagnoses? Sure. Maybe. But if these parents would let their daughter become literally fused to their sofa, with all kinds of bodily fluids building up, and horrible smells in the home, and their only answer is that Lacey is an adult, we are just doing what she wants, and they weren't actively trying to seek some sort of help, then I have serious questions on what kind of parents they were before she ended up on the sofa. Again, I look back at my situation. That 2 months of my life. I can't even believe that happened to me. And I now look back and know that my mother was setting the stage for me to live this weird life she wanted me to live, and to indeed one day become disabled. I also look at my once handsome and well-built brother, who fell into the trap, and became a recluse and barely 100 pounds. Narcissist parents do this to their children all the time. Sometimes they induce these types of disabilities. Or for the super rich, they might encourage poor spending behaviors. So their child is always dependent on them for money. They always want to keep control and supply coming from their child and their situation. But in this case, many people didn't even know Lacey still lived in the home. So what was likely their supply if narcissistic abuse was the problem here? And that would be sadism. Or being sadistic. Narcissists are sadists. I will say that again. Narcissists are sadists. The narcissist parents can see the potential in their children when the child doesn't even know they have potential yet. And these so-called parents love to snuff out this potential over a long period of time. So they can relish and relive the fact they have power over their child, and for their child to feel like there is nothing they can do about it. Again, one thing that is very common for a great many of us that grew up in such homes is special education or having learning problems. Now there are many that didn't have learning problems as well. But the narcissist parent will just go at things a different way. Such as I mentioned before. Encouraging poor spending habits or letting them hang out with so-called friends that are using substances they shouldn't use. Because they know there is a chance their child will develop a substance abuse problem. And this is not far-fetched at all. We oftentimes hear about narcissist mothers and fathers bringing their abusive boyfriend and girlfriends around their kids, and to turn a blind eye to the fact when they start abusing them. Why do they do this? Because they are sadistic. And they love to get that constant hit of supply, knowing they have supreme control over their life and there is nothing they can do about it. And if you have a home allegedly where both the mother and father suffer from and are narcissists, the child literally has nowhere to go. This is why in a home where one spouse isn't a narcissist, the narcissist parent will lie and manipulate to get full custody and will use parental alienation against the parent that isn't a narcissist. So that parent can't have a positive effect on the child. Because if the child is able to hear and see and be a part of positive things, it becomes even more difficult for the narcissist parent to pull their gaslighting and projection tricks they pull on their children in order to get their children to buy into the narcissist's parent's distorted reality. So if narcissism or narcissistic abuse was the problem here, why weren't Lacey's parents afraid she would one day lose her life or at least end up very sick as a result and others finding out? Well, if narcissism is the problem in this case, if you have a narcissist or two narcissists that are married and have gotten away with horrible things their entire lives, they successfully scapegoated this person for this and that person for that, time and time again. So much so it's worked out in their benefit each and every single time. Eventually what I believe happens to these people, they start to think they can get away with and explain away anything they do. It was said that Lacey was no longer living for a full day before her parents called for help. Again, we have to look at the situation. Their daughter lived on the sofa for around 12 years, with each year likely getting worse. And it appears they possibly only thought about getting help once in the beginning stages and then that was it. There were no conversations with their doctors of this is my daughter's situation. What are the dangers of her living like this? What are our options? Nothing. Just a situation getting worse and worse and worse. And in the end, their only answer is that Lacey was an adult and she didn't want to leave the sofa. There is something very wrong with all of that. And that is the answer I've heard all of my life growing up. Well, James, that's what you wanted. I don't know what's wrong with James. James said this, that and the other. No responsibility as a parent. No love. Just create the problem. And then blame others and distance yourself from it. Is the MO of the narcissist parent. And in my opinion, this is what I think allegedly happened in this case. And this should further let you know. Narcissists don't want you living. No matter they put something in your tea. Or they ruin your life slowly. I hope some experts are called in to see if they can find out anything else about Lacey's life before she was diagnosed. And if any of such happenings could have led to any of her mental health issues and behavioral problems. With that said, people, this is why narcissistic abuse is so hard to pinpoint on. Because it's hidden in the shadows. And even when someone loses their life, sometimes you will still never know all of the facts. Which is exactly what the narcissist wants. For the narcissist, it was all the victim's choice. It was all the victim's fault. We were just doing what they wanted us to do. This is a case I will be interested to know more about as things unfold. But with that said, I pray for Lacey's soul. It was said that foam from the sofa was found in her stomach, as she was likely eating the foam from the sofa's cushions, likely to stay living. But the infections became too much and her life was cut short. But if someone cared about Lacey and her life and her troubles, where would she be at today? What wonderful thing would she be doing today? We will never know. But I do hope she is with the Lord our Father who art in heaven. It appears she was an innocent victim in this since day one. And this is why many of us that grew up in a home with a narcissist mother or father, It's indeed a miracle we are living and made it out of the house we grew up in. Because sadly some don't make it out. And end up like Lacey. And some of those that do make it out end up like my golden child brother. Reliving the same life existence my mother once lived. I pray for him as well. So though it's just my humble cartoon opinion and guess. Yes. It appears narcissistic abuse was more than likely at play in this case. At least that is my opinion anyways. But what do you think? Please leave your comments below. And if you are new to this channel, please subscribe as we dive deep on this channel regarding narcissism, narcissistic abuse, and self-development. Again, rest in peace, Lacey Fletcher. With that said, I do hope your day is blessed. And until next time, bye for now. And be good to yourself.